guys, welcome back to The Bright Side. Macy here, The Bright Side Girl, and today we're going to be doing my April reading wrap-up. So once again, this is going to be part 2 of my April reading wrap-up. This is going to be everything I read the week before and the 2 weeks after Randomathon round 2. I have the reading wrap-up up already for that. This was our food-themed edition, so all the books were about food, around food, and restaurants and cafes. We had such a good time during that readathon, and I read quite a few books. So these are all the books that were not for the readathon. We're going to be talking about them in order of a least favorite to favorite. Another month without a 5-star, but we got really close to one, so I'm excited to talk to you about all of these books. I spend most of my time now between readathons trying to catch up on series. I am doing very good. I've been really focused on this the last couple years. I try to keep my unfinished series under 5 by the end of the year, but that includes anything new that I start throughout the year. And since I like to start a couple new series during the readathon, it can be a little bit of a back and forth, but we are down to 6 series right now, and I'm very excited. We're getting extra caught up, which means we'll be able to start some new ones pretty soon. So we're just gonna dive right in. All right, I gave this one 3 stars on Goodreads purely because it's a middle grade book, and it's not a bad book, but it was probably in my heart more of a 2.5, and that was the School for Good and Evil 3. This is a 6-book series. The first 3 kind of all wrap up together, and then the next set I think takes place like a little bit more in the future. So excited for this middle grade series. This was the next large middle grade series I wanted to read. I absolutely adored the first book, and I did really enjoy the second book as well. I was very excited to get into this third one finally. I started this one a couple months ago. It's like a 22-hour audio, and I just kept reading like a couple hours every week, and I finally finished it, and I finally realized why it was taking me so long. So this series is set where there is a school for good and a school for evil. There's this cute little town nearby, and we have best friends Agatha and Sophie. They have very different personalities and lifestyles. Sophie is very girly and all about her appearance. She's got a little bit more of a selfish heart, and she's a little bit more self-absorbed. Agatha is a little bit more snarky, but she has a big heart and likes to take care of people and kind of keep to herself. They are an unlikely best friend duo. There is supposed to be like this wizard or something that comes and takes kids in the night and brings them to the school for good and evil. And Sophie is convinced that she is going to the school for good, and Agatha will go to the school for evil. And it winds up being reversed, and kind of chaos ensues from there. It's a very magical, fun school. We have a lot of talk of past fairy tales. They get taught a lot of the fairy tales, and it has a lot to do with stories and keeping the stories alive and teaching you to be good and evil. It's got some moral grayness to it. I really enjoyed the first 2 books in the series. Honestly, you could consider the first book a standalone though, because it wraps up pretty good. And I was all prepared for this to be like one of my favorite middle grade series ever. But this book went on and on and on. It was so long, but also it just kept going around in circles. I feel like we recycled some of the same plots that were in the first 2 books, and we went back and forth a lot between the love interest in here. This is a middle grade series, I believe, but there was a heavy amount of like love triangle, love interest in here that gave it a little bit more of a young adult feel. It made it feel like a little bit more mature and less adventurous. Honestly, this whole book had a little bit more mature writing. I don't mean that as like in an inappropriate way. I just mean it as in, I don't know that middle grades would enjoy this as much as you would think, just because there was like talk of divorce and different things in like a kind of more detailed way, where I expected this book to be a lot more adventurous, have some like morals and fables and things, but a lot more about like the adventure and the silliness. And it was just kind of weird. We had like the same things kind of happening over and over again in different ways, and it just kept spinning around, and I thought it was just me, but then I read a lot of reviews that felt the same way, so it wasn't in my head. And then the ending was just kind of a little bit annoying, and it was very strange because at first you're thinking the moral of the whole story is to point out that everyone is a little bit good and everyone's a little bit evil, and it's kind of more what you choose. But then it just kind of goes back and forth on that, which I'm fine if books don't have like a moral to the story. That's fine with me. I'm up for just a grand adventure, but it felt like this one was gonna have one, and then it just kind of didn't. It was very weird. So unfortunately, this was more like a 2.5 for me. The narrator, Polly Lee, though, is absolutely amazing. I love her. She makes them so good. I could not have gotten through this if it wasn't for her. I think I will be unhauling all except for the first book, and I'm not going to be reading the rest of the series because I have so many other middle grade series that I want to get to, and I usually don't read that many throughout the year, so I like to be a little bit pickier with them, and I don't know that I can go and spin around in the stories again, unfortunately. So I still recommend recommend that first one though. It was a 5-star for me. I absolutely loved it. Narrator was great. I even enjoyed the movie even though it was very, very different. But this was my least favorite read of the month. Next we're going to go into the 3-star reads. And the next one would be This Cursed Light by Emily Thied. So this is the second in a duology. I read This Vicious Grace last year for Hikeathon. Absolutely loved it. It was one of my favorite reads of the year. And then I reread it last month, so you can hear me talk about it in last month's wrap up, to prepare for this second book, which came out in December or so. So this is such a unique fantasy world and I really, really enjoyed it. It's set on an island, but it has like an Italian vibe about it. It's got like this Italian fantasy setting. We have Alessa, who is chosen to be the Fenestra, which is someone there to kind of protect the island. She's kind of treated like royalty and she has a lot of duties and obligations. She's supposed to marry and be able to enhance her partner's powers, and they will kind of protect the island together against these like dark forces. But the last like 3 people they've tried to do this with, when she touches them, they die. So people are starting to wonder if she was the right choice. And at some point someone actually tries to assassinate her. So she teams up with this random kind of snarky bodyguard character while she's trying to figure out what to do and how to find like a match that she won't kill. It has this really awesome kind of snarky, angsty romance in here. This is a young adult series and the world building is really cool. We have a nice ragtag team of characters. I really liked the magic system and it was just really, really good. This second book wasn't quite as good. I still enjoyed it. The narrator, first of all, is really great. So I did these on audio. The first one left off on a big cliffhanger, and the aftermaths of what happened from that are in this book. The plot just takes like a big twist that I didn't expect. I did feel like this was a little bit on the long side because there were some things in here that I just felt like kind of drug it out and were unnecessary. And there was a little bit less about the magic system than I expected based on the events of the first book. But in the end, I still really enjoyed this one overall. I would still recommend the whole duology, but this one was a 3-star for me. All right, so that was my only 3 stars. So now we're going to move on to the 4 stars, which I am more lenient with my 4 stars than I am with my 5 stars. My 5 stars I want to be like a new favorite, something that I want to reread or constantly recommend to people and push on people. Something kind of has a hold on my heart. So the jump from 4 to 5 can be a little bit large for me, but 4s are stuff that I really enjoy and would highly recommend. They just didn't quite reach that like all-time favorite level. Okay, so we have The Undying by Megan Spooner and Amy Kaufman. So this again is the second book in a duology. I started Unearthed during Galaxy-a-thon and I have had this duology for such a long time. Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner are such a dynamic sci-fi duo. They are so good at their space books and writing together. I have read 3 or 4 series from them now, and then I've read 2 series from Amy Kaufman with Jay Kristoff. If you love a good, fun sci-fi adventure with a ragtag team of characters with humor and romance and action, like they're so amazing. I in particularly really liked this duology a lot. I'm going to read you the synopsis of book 1 just because I don't want to mess it up. Earth intercepts a message from the long extinct alien race. It seems like the solution the planet has been waiting for. The Undying's advanced technology has the potential to undo environmental damage and turn lives around. And Gaia, their former home planet, is a treasure trove waiting to be uncovered. For Jules Addison and his fellow scholars, the discovery of an alien culture offers unprecedented opportunity for study, as long as the scavengers like Amelia Radcliffe don't loot everything first. Mia and Jules' different reasons for smuggling themselves onto Gaia put them immediately at odds, but after escaping a dangerous confrontation with other scavvers, they form a fragile alliance. So we're following these 2 unlikely characters, both trying to learn more about this race for different reasons. They have different pasts and backgrounds. It's got a really cool treasure hunting element, almost like sci-fi archaeology as well, and I really thought this second book was really good and it wrapped up great. It had a fabulous ending. The narrators for this are some of my favorites. They do a lot of Amy Kaufman's books. It was just really, really good. If you love sci-fi spacey reads, I would highly recommend this one. This is a young adult duology. Funny, snarky romance in here as well. If you are new to sci-fi, I feel like this is a good one to jump into. It's really fun and adventurous. I highly enjoyed this one and I'll be recommending it a lot in the future. Okay, next we have Several People Typing. I did a lot of buddy reads this month to kind of mix up all the series that I'm trying to finish, and this one was just a really, really short read. I think it's under 150 pages and it was only like 3 hours on audiobook. So this is a work from home comedy. This is an adult novella and it's told entirely through captivating Slack messages, which is like a workplace messaging center. I don't use it, but my friend that read it does, so that was really interesting. It's got a satire vibe about it, but not in like an obnoxious obnoxious way. So we have Gerald, and he is a mid-level employee of the New York-based public relations firm, and he has been uploaded into the company's internal Slack channels. At least his consciousness has. His colleagues assume it's an elaborate gag to exploit the new work from home policy, but now that Gerald's productivity is through the roof, his bosses are only too happy to let him work from wherever he says he is. So he gets kind of uploaded into this Slack system, so we have this really cool sci-fi element, and you're figuring out how he's going to escape, but he's interacting a lot with the Slack bot, which is kind of like a help center, and it's just really quirky and fun. It's got a full cast audio, so it's got a little bit of that like Illuminae Sleeping Giants kind of back and forth vibe. My friend that read it did not enjoy physically reading it because it's told through messages. It's a lot of Gerald said, Irene said over and over, and they kind of cut that out on the audio because you get to know the voices and they just talk back and forth to each other. It was really quick. It was really funny. I wish it had a little bit of a longer, better wrapped up ending, but if you're looking for a good palate cleanser, this really is silly and fun. This is a good one. I think I am going to do like an office book recommendation list, hopefully sometime this year, because I have some other ones that I want to read. Because I enjoyed it so much and the audio was so good, I gave it 4 stars. Next up, I physically read Spring Harvest by Rec Talk Ross. I was on the ARC team for this one, which I almost never sign up for ARC teams for a few reasons. One, I'm terrible about deadlines set by other people. I do not do good with that kind of pressure. 2, I do not do good reading on ebook usually. I'm not really physically reading a ton right now anyway, but on ebook especially is just not my preferred thing. And 3, I usually don't like reading from authors that I don't know for ARCs because I want to spend my time on things that I think I'm really going to enjoy. And I've done some ARC reading in the past and I really didn't like any of them, and then I felt bad that I had to review them. And I'm overall a pretty easy to please reader for the most part. Also don't necessarily care about reading new releases before they come out, even if it's something that I'm really interested in. I am fine waiting for the release date. However, Rec Talk has become a friend of mine. I read her first book, Ski Weekend, on my own. I did not fully love that one. It has a really good atmosphere though. And then last year, I really liked the synopsis of her new release and she asked me to be in the ARC team, and so me and my friend Buddy read that one, and it was called Summer Rental. This was kind of like a slasher 90s style horror comedy set in the summer at this summer rental during 4th of July, and I really wound up having a fantastic time with it. Even though it was a little bit on the gory side for me, it was just so fast paced and silly and all over the place that I wound up really enjoying it. So I actually gave that one 5 stars just because it was such a good time. So when I saw her new release was set in like a Coachella type festival with vampires, I was like, hello, can I please read the ARC for this? She signed me up for her ARC team, and I actually read this book in like 4 days on ebook, which was not only impressive for physically reading for me, but for ebook physical reading, and it kept me up late at night. Something about her writing style is just really addictive and fast paced, and even though there were things that I did not like about the book, because of the way it's just like so quick and action packed, I just wanted to keep reading. In this one we have a group of college kids or freshly graduated college kids, and they're going to this music festival in Gilroy, California, which is the garlic like capital of the country, and I believe that Gilroy actually is. And they're going to this Garlic Grooves music festival, and when they're there, some bad things happen and there's some vampire situations going on, and they wind up having to try to survive in this small town kind of out in nature. So this would actually be a really good one for hike-a-thon. Things I didn't like first. One, the characters are very like vapid and obnoxious, and they definitely seemed more young adult than college. I know like some college kids seem that way, but it still felt like a young adult book to me, even though it had a little bit more intense like gory scenes and stuff than her other book. That's just something to keep in mind. They had a lot of commentary on the meat industry and kind of comparing that to things that were happening, which I personally didn't love because I feel like it felt like a tiny bit on the preachy side. So that's just something kind of good to note. So it does have the talk about like animal cruelty and things like that in here. And then 3, in the middle, we have this like really fast-paced, action-paced survival setting in the beginning, and then something happens in the middle that really slows it down and it feels kind of disjointed from the rest of the book. There's like a whole few chapters in the middle that I felt like didn't really fit with the book. I understand why they were in there, but it kind of took me out of the story, and I probably would have read this in 2 days if that middle part hadn't been in there. Now, things that I really loved. even though the characters were obnoxious and annoying, you feel somehow attached to them and you're rooting for them still, which was really fun. It's a really good ragtag team. The love interest in here was fantastic. He was like a sweet, fun, the perfect amount of snarky, definitely not a spicy read, but really, really cute and kind of angsty, and I really, really enjoyed that part. I loved the atmosphere, which I think is something that Rec Talk really, really does a good job at. Like, Ski Weekend will totally give you those winter, cold, survival vibes. Summer Rental will definitely give you that hot, summer, beachy element. And then this one, we had so many details about the garlic festival and the woods and all those different elements that I really loved. And apparently she's writing books in seasons. So we've got winter, spring, summer, and I'm assuming we're gonna get fall next year, which if that happens, oh man, I cannot wait to see, because she does kind of more horror thriller type of books. But her atmospheres are so, so good. And then it's just a really, really fast-paced, over-the-top, fun read. So if you're up for a good time and you like those kind of like slasher vibes, and I hate saying that because it's not like a scary read, but it definitely has some gorier scenes in here, which I don't usually love, but because of the silliness and the over-topness, I feel like it balances it out. So this one wound up being a 4-star for me. I didn't love it quite as much as Summer Rental, but I did really enjoy it. I liked the vampires. That was really fun. And this is a good one for spring, summer, and hike-a-thon. All right, this next one was the first 7, and this is second in a duology, the first one being the last 8 that I started for Galaxy-a-thon. This one has a post-apocalyptic survival theme, but with aliens. So in this first one, we have like an alien apocalypse that happens, and these aliens are brutal and they're killing everyone. And our main character somehow survived, even though she's like 17 and everyone around her dies, and she kind of is like journeying on her own, and she winds up meeting up with 7 other teens that also survive. And as far as they know, they are the only ones that have survived this apocalypse, and they don't know why. And they kind of team up in this like Area 51 bunker style situation, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do. If they're just going to stay and hunker down and try to survive, or if they're going to go and figure out what happened, find other survivors, and all of that stuff. The first one definitely has more post-apocalyptic survival situations than it does like the alien sci-fi element, and I really liked it. I liked the bunker, I liked the ragtag team of characters, I liked all their backstories. It was just really fast-paced and really great, and the narrator was really good. This is a young adult duology, so we've got a lot of action and adventure. And then the second book was just really, really good. We get more of those like sci-fi alien elements. We uncover more about why things are happening and going the way that they are. And I just had a really great time with it. This was such a solid sci-fi alien duology. Again, if you're new to sci-fi, this is a good one because it's mostly set on Earth and post-apocalyptic and very easy to follow, as most young adult sci-fi is. Also very adventurous. Characters are lovable, stakes are high. Again, another really good one for Galaxy-a-thon and Hike-a-thon because we've got a survival element. I just really, really enjoyed it, and it was a solid 4-star for me. Okay, then my favorite read of the readathon, this was almost a 5-star, and I could change it in the future depending on how much I keep thinking about it. And I actually went to Target and bought a copy as soon as I finished it, even though I almost never do that with new releases, but it's so pretty, so you'll see why in a second. And that was Snow Globe by Soy Young Park. I loved this one so much. This was on my most anticipated new releases, and I'm so glad I was correct with that. First, let's show you how pretty. So we have these amazing in pages. I haven't hauled this yet. And then the Naked book has this like winter snow globe setting. So fun. Okay, in this one we've got this really cool dystopian futuristic type world. Enclosed under a vast dome, Snow Globe is the last place on Earth that's warm. Outside Snow Globe is a frozen wasteland, and every day citizens face the icy world to get to their jobs at the power plant, where they produce the energy Snow Globe needs to keep running. Their only solace comes in the form of 24-hour television programming streamed directly from the domed city. The residents of Snow Globe have everything: fame, fortune, and above all, safety from the desolation outside their walls. In exchange, their lives are broadcast to the less fortunate, who watch eagerly, hoping for the chance to one day become actors themselves. Shoban lives for the time she spends watching the shows produced inside Snow Globe. Her favorite? Go All Around, starring Go Hari, Snow Globe's biggest star, and it turns out the key to getting Shobon her dream life. Because Hari is dead and Shobon has been chosen to take her place, only life inside Snow Globe is nothing like what you see on television. Reality is a lie and truth seems to be forever out of reach. So the setting of this, immaculate. The description of the world and the snow and the winter and why things are the way they are. And then this snow globe where all these reality stars live. We have all these different types of reality shows and how they work and how the actors are. And it is just so well thought out and fantastic. The plotting here is so fun. There are a lot of twists and turns and it is just really great. It does have like that dystopian vibe kind of, but it also just has like a really unique premise and setting, and I had such a good time with this. The narrator for this was phenomenal. I think I read it in like 2 days because I enjoyed it so much. This is part of a young adult duology. I believe this was translated from Korean. It was a fabulous translation. I know sometimes when I've read translated books, things don't always translate super well, but this one was fantastic. I'm very excited to read the next book next year because I just love this like reality TV winter snow globe setting. This one would also be amazing for winter time, and it even had some talks of like Christmas in here. It's not a Christmas book, but if you're looking for something that's not a full-on holiday read but has that in there a little bit, this would be a good one. I'll probably be recommending it in the winter time a lot more as well. Absolutely loved it, and it was like a 4.5. Okay, you guys, so that is everything that I read for April outside of Randomathon, so be sure and check out that other video to see all the food themed reads that I read. Overall, this was a pretty great April reading month, and I got some things that I really loved and things I'll be recommending a lot in the future. Let me know what your favorite read of April was down below in the comments, or if you plan on reading any of these books that I mentioned. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at The Bright Side Girl if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next time on The Bright Side.